Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Dakota, the place where we dig through the dry stuff so you don't have to. Today we're cracking open a report from the Genter Dividend Income Fund, and trust me, it's not as thrilling as a pirate treasure map, but it does have some secrets we can uncover. Imagine trying to find out where your money is going, but instead of a simple bank statement, you get this document. This is a semi-annual report for the period ending in April of 2025. In a nutshell, we're going to look at how this fund, which invests in companies that pay dividends, has been doing. Dividend income funds focus on stocks that make regular payments to their shareholders. It includes where the fund is investing, how the investments are performing, and what it all means for the people who have money in the fund. It's like a health checkup for your investments. If you're into getting the real scoop from corporate reports, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. And for even more discussion and insights, join our Discord community linked down in the description. Crows paid as a percentage HUAT of a $10,000 investment teaser scroll. Crows. Let's clarify what it costs to be in this fund. For every $10,000 you invest, it costs about $62. That's about 1.25%, so used on fund expenses. The fund has about $33.9 million total, and they spread that money across 34 different investments. The portfolio turnover rate is 13%. This means that only a small of the fund's holdings were replaced during the reporting period. Now it's time to see where the money is actually parked. Their top holding is Inbridge Inc., which it has 4.7% of the portfolio in. Second, 4.3% is in Altria Group. Inc., AT&T Inc., and Cisco Systems each account for 4%. Rounding out the top holdings are M&T Bancorp, CVS Health Corp, JPM Morgan Chase & Co., Chevron Corp, Air Products and Chemicals Inc., and Evergy Inc. You can think of these 10 holdings as the core building blocks of the fund. Good news here. There were no disagreements with the accountants. It makes everything simpler when everyone is on the same page. Now, let's dive into the financials, the core of this report. This section lists all the assets and liabilities of the fund. It also has the income and expenses detailing whether the fund made or lost money. It is organized under Schedule of Investments, Statement of Assets and Liabilities, Statement of Operations, Statements of Changes in Net Assets, Financial Highlights, and Notes to Financial Statements. Think of it similar to opening up a financial dashboard. Let's start by scrolling to the Schedule of Investments. The fund invests most heavily in what's called common stocks. That's just companies like AT&T or Chevron. About 96.3% of the fund is invested in common stocks. Within common stocks, the fund puts about 5% of its investments in basic materials. 5% in basic materials translates to just over $1.6 million, with the biggest chunk, about $1.1 million, in Air Products and Chemicals Inc. When it comes to consumer staples, this fund spreads its bets. They've got nearly 30% of their assets tied up in consumer non-cyclical, which would be things like healthcare and food staples. Having 16.5% of the portfolio is invested in financial firms, with major investments in BlackRock, Capital One, JPM Morgan Chase, and M&T Bancorp. Scroll Fidelity Investments, Money Market Treasury Portfolio, Institutional caps of 4.14. 7 Poise Scroll caps to raise, since also a bit more than 3% is wrapped up in short-term investments, specifically a Fidelity Money Market Fund. Okay, let's look into the fund's balance sheet. The Statement of Assets and Liabilities shows that at the end of April of 2025, the fund had about $33.8 million worth of investments. The fund had unrealized gains as the investments cost about $26 million. In accounting, that difference is referred to as at value. The Statement of Operations tells you about income and cost. The fund had $581 and $825 coming in from dividends. After all of its costs, including management fees, the fund's net investment income was $320.90. However, when you factor in losses from investments, the fund actually saw a net decrease in assets of about $34,202.14. The statements of changes in net assets walks through how the fund has gained or lost money over the past 6 months compared to the previous year. During that period, the fund had total proceeds for $4.24 million from shares being sold. If you break it all down, the fund's total net assets barely shifted, ending at $33,895.664 dirham by the end of April, a slight decrease from the about $33.9 million in October the prior year. The financial highlights section provides some key performance metrics on a per share basis. The net asset value, which is basically how much money is for each share, went from 22 to 49 during the covered time period. The ratio of expenses to average net assets after waivers was 1.25% annualized. In other words, if you count all of the money spent, it came out to about 125% for at least the last 5 years. So what we can conclude is that the management expenses are consistent, the portfolio turnover and expenses are consistent. The portfolio turnover rate was 13% during the reporting period. These types of stats are very useful when calculating your own personal returns. The fund was established as a type of investment company under what's called the Investment Company Act of 1940. This section sets the scene for understanding the nuts and bolts behind the fund structure and its reason for existence. The rules say that the fund can't have more than 15% of its assets in investments that aren't easy to sell quickly, which are called illiquid investments. This part talks about the agreement with Genter Capital Management LLC, the advisor. Regarding the fees, the advisor is paid a fee based on a percentage of the fund's assets. In this case, the advisor agreed to reduce the fee from 0.90% to 0.80%. This part touches on how the accounting can be different for financial statements versus what gets reported for tax purposes and makes clear the differences don't actually change the fund's bottom line. The fund has the ability to charge a redemption fee of 2% of the total amount someone takes out, but that's only if they sell their shares within 30 days of buying them. The fund is involved in contracts that include general indemnifications. However, the report says that the risk of any major losses is expected to be minimal. Risk exists from all sides, from running the business to global issues. This describes how the fund values its investments. It mainly uses prices that can be easily seen in the market, so it's using what they call level 1 inputs. Scroll market disruption and geopolitical coal risk flows. There's a section about market disruption and geopolitical risks. It talks about what could happen with things like war or health issues and says these events could negatively affect the fund's performance. It sounds like a cover your bases thing. The report confirms that there haven't been any significant changes to how shareholders can suggest nominees for the Board of Trustees. Finally, we see the signatures of the President and Treasurer, certifying that the information in the report is accurate and that the company's financial controls are in good order. Now let's step back and see what this all means. The Genter Dividend Income Fund seems to be playing it relatively safe with their investments. The heavy focus on reliable dividend stocks suggests they're more about steady income than shooting for the moon. The low portfolio turnover rate is a testament to their buy and hold approach, which reduces transaction costs but might also mean they're missing out on some quicker gains. However, the advisor's profit margins aren't great. It's something worth watching in the future. If they can't find a better advisory return, it could damage their incentives. There is also an outstanding loan that could get repaid. In conclusion, Genter Dividend Income Fund looks like a decent choice if you are mainly focused on income, steady but not flashy. Alright, that's our breakdown of Genter Dividend Income Fund's semi-annual filing and its implications. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and remember, if this analysis brought some insight to your day, smash that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Also, don't forget to check out the Discord in the description below for more discussion and insights. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.